This is Tony Gonzalez from This is Rock Spain, and today we are talking to Frédéric Leclercq, now a member of the band Sinsaenum. How are you, Frédéric?
¿Todo bien? ¿Y tú?
Muy bien. Do you speak
Yo
Spanish?
hablo solamente un poquito español. Yo entiendo un poquito because it's the same as French or it's close enough, so I can say that and then people answer in Spanish and I'm like, no, lo siento. So yes, I understand some words and I can write some words, but that's about it.
Okay. So we are going to speak in English.
Yes, please. Muchas gracias.
De nada, de nada. Yes. So you have worked on very diverse projects from Dragonforce to Sinsaenum. Now, how has your musical evolution been, and what has led you to explore more extreme sounds?
So I mean, yeah, I started being in the music business with a power metal band. It was called Heavenly, and that was in the year 2000, 2001. And one thing leading into another, I joined Dragonforce in 2005, officially in 2006. But I've always been interested in dark style of music, like thrash, death, black. Only people didn't really know about it because when you're on stage or when you're in a band that is one style, you cannot wear a t-shirt just like, yes, but I am also listening to, So I guess for some people it came as a surprise, even though I was mentioning it in interviews. But that's something I always wanted to do, and especially because I could feel that, I was getting like put in a box of like power metal, and that's it's not my favorite kind of heavy metal, put it this way, but I still like it, and I've got nothing bad to say about all my years in or Heavenly or Dragon Force, because that got me where I am partially, and it was great. But that's something I wanted to do, and then I got I was asking, I wanted to do that with friends, I didn't know how, what would be, whatever, I just something I wanted to do. And then Stefan was on board. He was the first one to be on board. Then Joey was just like, yeah, who's the drummer? I'm gonna do it. So then it just like made it more real. Just like, okay, wow, Stefan, Joey is here, and then that's how it happened. And then so Sinsaenum was formed in 2013. The first album came out in 2016. Then I left Dragonforce in 2019 and I joined Kreator around the same time. Yeah, and I also play in Loud Blast, so I do play heavy dark music. But I also have like another band called Amahiru with a Japanese girl called Saki, and this is more like melodic hard rock heavy metal. So that's me in a nutshell. But yeah, I've always been interested in the dark side of heavy metal. I started listening, to Maiden, Manowar, Metallica, Motley Crue, but then Metallica leads to, Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer, Kreator, and then I found Morbid Angel, and I was just like, ooh, what is this? This is awesome. Morbid Angel, Pestilence, and whatnot, and then black metal and whatnot. So yeah, I've always been listening to this.
I have seen you in Creator, and you match perfectly with the band. So, more than a challenge, the pass from Dragonforce to Sinsaenum, more than a challenge, was a natural way to change and continue with your style of music that you like it.
Well, muchas gracias. Yeah, yeah, it's never been a challenge. I guess for people it might, like I said, because they just like see me as playing one style of music. So maybe they think like, oh, you can only play that. But to me, it's never been a challenge. Just like I don't play like 24/7. I'm not just playing, on bass, playing power metal like four chords going like, na 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 na. In fact, I'm a guitar player, and like I said, I grew up, playing like those thrash and death riffs. So for me to join Kreator, you need to learn the songs, you need to adapt and adjust to the other musicians, but it's never been like a, ooh, am I going to be able to do it? I was just like, yeah, of course I can do it. Not, I don't want to sound like a, you know, presumptuous, but it's just like, this is the music I like, and this is the music I play on my, I was playing on my free time. So, you know, and the same with Sinsaenum. It's just like, I mean, I created the songs. So to me, it's no challenge, just like this is, but I guess, like I said, it might have come to people as a surprise because, oh wow, can he do that? But yeah, I can. Well, I
Yes.
try at least.
And Frederick, we are here because there is a new recording in Devastation.
Yes.
And yes, and the writing and recording process for In Devastation differ from your previous albums.
Yes. Well, first of all, the last album came out in 2018, so that's 7 years ago. I started writing songs in 2019. Then in 2020, we had COVID. We started working on Kreator stuff. Then I lost my father, which left me completely empty inside. No inspiration, no will to do nothing, just like, so I was taking the back seat in a Kreator, which was fine. But me as the leader of Sinsaenum, so to say, I had no drive. I was just like, ugh. And then not even a year after that, Joey passed away. So that's another, you know. And then we started to talk about it with the other members, of course, and we said, shall we? Yeah, okay, let's carry on. Let's dedicate the next album to him, you know, so it would be a tribute to him because he came up with the name. So yeah, I mean, and also because he's our brother, but you know, so then in in all of that, being busy with Kreator as well, and like I said, going up and down in moods, it took a while, but strictly speaking, in terms of style, the first album was a love letter to the genre of you know, death metal. So it was just like I wanted this to sound like I've always wanted a great death metal album to sound. You know, that was my first one. I'm like, wow, I want to incorporate like those like Morbid Angel, Pestilence, D-side, all of that. The second one, I was angry, I was pissed off. So it's just like it had like a sort of aggressive Pantera groove brought into it, and it was just like ugly cover, you know. So the one and two, there was like an agenda, like something to prove or to express. This one was just like I want to write songs for Sinsaenum. So we've done a tour for Repulsion for Humanity, and I could see also what people like in the crowd. So I guess that, you know, in the back of your head, you go like, okay, that works less. And I don't write music for other people. You know, we have to be happy with it first and foremost. But I guess you take that in consideration. So uh, there was no restrictions. We were just like, I was writing music with just, I want to make a great album. I just want to make good music. I want to, you know, carry on and incorporate like clean vocals, a bit more like a prog here and there, you know, and then yeah, then like I said, it stopped. And then when it was time to carry on again, we were just like, yeah, let's make the best possible album again with no restriction. If we want to have like clean vocals on the ballad "Last Goodbye," let's go for it. You know, because you can't really have a song that talks about grief and sadness and sorrow and with just constant like. You know, you need to go through the same mood swings as you experience when you go through this. So yeah, so that's how it happened.
Yes, when Joey Jordison passed away, some people imagine that Sinsaenum was finished.
Hmm.
However, now, when we know who is the new drummer,
Hmm?
the election of this drummer was clear. You know why, I know why, but share the reason with the audience.
Yeah, Joyzi is our new drummer. He's from Portugal, and he was the drum tech of Joey. So he was part of the family already. So he did the tour with us. He was with Joey every night. He was spending a lot of time with him, talking to him. He was on stage with us doing the he was doing like the percussions for the song Final Resolve. So I guess it made total sense for us to have someone that is part of the family, and someone that that understood Joey and understands us and was there. And yes, it makes total sense. We could have asked other people, and I had someone in mind. I spoke to Mike Heller for a minute because he's a great friend of mine, and but then I realized we realized like, no, let's keep it in the family. And that, it's always been like something about family. But Mike did write lyrics, so he's part of the family now, but on a different level. The person who's in charge of the cover, the artwork, it's Travis Smith, who did the artwork for the second album, because got introduced to him by Joey. So I like to work like this, like with people I know, people I trust, people, and Joyzi was the perfect choice.
So the question a lot of people ask is he as competent as Jordison was?
Well, yeah. Otherwise, otherwise we wouldn't have him on drums. Uh, it's hard to compare because Joey came. There was a before and an after Joey in the drum world. I'm not a drummer, but even I, not being a drummer, I know that he changed like the face of like the drummer world. Like he so. Uh, I don't even want to go and try to compare the two in that aspect. But I know that what matters to us is that Joyzy is able to play the songs that we had before. He's able to play the songs now, and that's exactly what's needed. So he's a great human being as well. So that's what matters to us. And I'm sure people will be like, they will listen to the old songs and the new songs, and I hope they would not be like comparing, because that's not the point. That's not where we're going there. Because otherwise, we would have gone for like an extremely technical person, so that haha, you cannot compare, and that's not that was not the mindset for this.
I understand the music is not a competence.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is to an extent. You kind of have to be able to play some stuff and whatnot. But in that particular aspect, he is very competent. But there was like something, a layer that was more important than just the competence. He was also like the this el corazón,
Yes,
right? So.
yes. And Frederick, tell me, how was working with Joey Jordison, both in the studio and on the stage?
Awesome. He was a great person. He was very passionate when it came to music. He had a lot of cool ideas, and yeah. I mean, I just I don't obviously now asking and thinking, but I don't consider these people just musician. It's just like friends. That's how we decided to work together, because when we met, we bonded around on the fact that we both loved Morbid Angel. That's how it started. I've mentioned it I don't know how many times in interviews, but we would like send messages to each other and call each other MA for Morbid Angel. And so to me, to be on stage with people I like, I don't really analyze, the competence in that aspect. It's just like it's a great feeling to be with people you love and to share a common language. So it's the same with to play with Stefan or Sean or Heimuth. So or Attila.
Yes. Now I have seen that you speak French, of course, English,
Oui.
a little Spanish,
Si.
and then you are from France.
Yes.
Andre is Portuguese,
Yes.
that maybe some other members are from other countries.
Yes.
So how can you manage the creative process across borders and genre?
Well, first, also speak German, and I'm
Tell me,
learning. I'm learning Japanese. I know some words in
improvement.
Swedish and Italian, but that's beyond the point. When I was in Dragonforce, it was already the case. Like the original singer is from South Africa. The keyboard player was from Ukraine. So Herman was from Hong Kong. So it's it's not impossible nowadays, to work all thanks to the internet, and I think it's if anything, it's interesting to learn from other people's skills and culture and whatnot. You don't. When I first joined Dragonforce, I thought I was gonna learn so much. I'd be like, fuck, in 5 years I'd be fluent in Chinese and in Ukrainian, and no, we didn't share as much as that. But I think it's an interesting experience nevertheless, and it's not a problem in the band. We have like three members from France. One is from the US. Attila is from Budapest, so Hungary, and Joyzi is from Portugal. So if we need to meet up, the only one that takes a while is shown in the US, but the rest is like, like a couple of hours, like within, Europe, and it's fine. And yeah, there's nowadays, like I said, there's just like, Zoom, the phone, the emails. So it's not complicated. And I guess the fact that I'm the one writing the material and whatnot, so it's just, it comes like this first and then send it out, and it's easy. Piece of cake. Easy.
In the album, there is a song called "Last Goodbye."
Yeah.
Is this a song dedicated to whom passed away?
Yes, it's dedicated to my father. It's dedicated to Joey. It's dedicated to Fred, our lighting guy, who passed away a year ago, actually, almost to the date. A year ago, and it's dedicated in general to everyone, well, to people that left and to the people also suffering from the loss of people. So this is a song very dear to us, and I hope it will resonate in everybody's heart. And it's I'd say it's only music, but it's a nice way of expressing such feelings. So I'll hopefully manage to translate that in the most uh, accurate and respectful way. But yeah.
Since September 2019, you are the bass player in Kreator. How does working with Kreator influence your vision about Sinsaenum?
I don't know if it does influences much. Everything does and nothing does. Like everything you do in music is like it comes from whatever happens. Like I'm gonna, I lose someone, it will influence my music. I eat something bad and then I have to record afterwards. I'll be like, oh, I feel weird, so my music will be influenced. I spend 6 months being really into jazz fusion. This will influence my work. So I guess Kreator must have had an influence, but I cannot pinpoint it. It's definitely nothing that I would say like, oh, that's a good move. I'm gonna do that for myself. I put everything in like different boxes. It was already the case with Dragon Force. Dragon Force. I was writing an album for Dragon Force. I did while Sinsaenum was already existing. I did Reaching into Infinity and Maximum Overload, but I could like put things in like different categories. So it does this is this, this is that. So Kreator, no, I'm learning. It's a different category, different genre, different rules, different venues, different everything. So it's very interesting. It's a lot of experiences and it's great, but I don't know, it's hard to tell that in what aspect it's influencing my work with Sinsaenum. Like I said, subconsciously there must be some things that I'm using, but I cannot pinpoint. There's nothing for sure. Just like this is coming from Kreator, so I cannot tell you, unfortunately.
There is another song in the recording that is Shades of Black.
Hmm?
I consider that is an extraordinary song, and part of the interest in the song is that in the middle of the fury, there are some guitar melodies that are really beautiful. Could you tell me how this song was developed?
It started not so clean actually. It has like a very catchy chorus now, right? It's just like da 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 da. But yeah. If people listen to this but they haven't listened to the album, forget about what just yeah. But it started. The working title was actually "Piss," like pissing, and it was an ugly song. It was very ugly, just like a lot of like dive bombs and bands, and it was ugly. And I was just like, okay, okay, I get it. This is, this is ugly, but something was missing. I don't know. And I thought, why not go from this like ugly mood to something extremely catchy? And I felt that at the time that there would be a song that you could play like in a festival and have like people go like, yeah, like a bombastic anthem, like, but still within the not the limitation, but like still being death metal and heavy and angry, and not because I don't really like. I'm not a big fan of like melodic death metal. When it's too melodic and cheesy and whatnot, and I didn't want to go down that road. So to me, it's just like the limit, I guess. Hopefully, but to me, that's my limit. I don't. Um, and uh, and yeah, and I remember I wrote the chorus, and I sent it to Stefan. I was just like, "What do you think? Do you think it's cool?" And he was just like, "Yeah, that's pretty catchy." I'm like, "All right, okay." And then based on that, the song was starting used to start directly with that main riff, the verse riff, da, da, ding, da, 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 da. And I'm just like, "Now let's we can expand a bit more on the melodic side." So I just came up with that melodic intro which reminds me of Tiamat on the album The Astral Sleep, which is an album I was listening to a lot at the time. So just okay, let's put that in there. That it will give like a different vibe, and it just gives a hint that it's gonna be a melodic song. And yeah, it's catchy. It's brutal. It has like that stomp vibe as well. It has like also touches of Satyricon. I'm sure you noticed, like like sort of King, which I like that's something we experienced on the experimented with on the previous album as well, Repulsion for Humanity. We had like the sort of like more black and roll, death and roll, whatever. We had those touches as well. So I just wanted to bring that sort of vibe, like Army of Chaos, Shades of Black, boom, boom, to pam, and so that's how it came about. And I'm glad that you like the song. I think they're all good. All the songs are great.
Of course, yes. But now the way that you answer this question made me think that when you write music, it's like a collage.
Mhm.
Yes, a collage of diverse influence and lines and melodic this. And how can you apply this, for example, to the song title In Devastation? That is totally different.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I guess, I don't, maybe I should always like think about the bigger picture, but I just don't, that song is catchy, but the whole mood of the album, because whatever's been done throughout that time, the way I've been feeling and I still feel, that the title In Devastation, I thought was very fitting. I felt it's just like it really defines how I've been feeling for those last 5 years. And the song itself, In Devastation, is actually not talking about grief. It's about like society, and it's a very catchy song. Like I said, most of the song, or like good portions of the song, were written before any of this happened. So I had like a material to, but it's just like the way I evolved in life, the way everything that has been put in the album since then, with just like with the shadow of Joey, the fact that I was grieving my father as well, it gives like a whole different vibe to it. So like I keep saying in interviews, like it's also because I'm giving those elements to people. It's just like we decided to dedicate it to them. So you already like enter our world thinking like, oh, okay, there is like devastation, grief, sorrow, but it's not just that. Maybe we shouldn't have said anything, and then people will be like, "Oh, this is like a catchy songs and whatnot." Now you have that aspect, but it's also an aspect that we cannot deny and hide away. I don't think like putting out an album and not saying anything, where like I said, like from the name to the vibe, like Joey's image is present all the time. So it all makes sense. But like I said, In Devastation is a catchy song. The lyrics are not about how I feel, but I think it was a rather fitting title, and I think the artwork also made sense because I contacted Travis and I said, "You have existing artworks already, like pieces of work that we could, work on." And he sent me a bunch, and he was just like, "Actually, Joey liked some of those," and I was just like, "Oh, okay." And I narrowed it down to two. One of them was like more in it was like In Devastation, like very like aggressive action, which goes with basically the music of the album, because the music is very, again, aggressive, catchy, bombastic, bam. But with the way I feel, with that cover with the main character, I call him the Emperor, but like that creature with the skull gazing into a sun, and it's just like it has like a sort of like it's a pose, almost like posing, whereas the music is like quite hectic and whatnot. This is like a introspection time In Devastation, what it brings, and I think to me it makes sense in a way. I didn't think about the explanation until now that I have to explain it, but now looking back, and it does make sense, or at least it makes sense to me. But this is, so it's all about like different aspects. And yeah, collage is the right word, because that's what it is in general anyway, in everything. You cannot be just one dimension, one color, so it is a collage of emotions.
But Frederick, in general term, this situation, the negative situation that Jordison passed away, your father passed away, was an influence in the general lyrics of the album?
Not all the songs, no. The mood, the tone, the tone, that had an impact on my life. So therefore, everything that I do doesn't have to be about this, but the way it impacted my life, it has to do with it one way or another. But not all the songs are about this. Like I said, in fact, there's only one song that is about grieving, and it's the Last Goodbye. The rest is about like aliens, society. There's some futuristic aspect as well. Rape. So all the happy, all the happy topics that you can find in a death metal band, but everything, all of that, shrouded in that vibe of sorrow and grief that's been around. But not all the songs are about this. Like I said, just one.
Yes. So I imagine that thinking of bringing alive the band in concert on tour have an extra difficulties.
Yeah.
But are you thinking of going alive?
Yes. We announced, but not completely fully. We'll make that clear once it's all what's the word? Sorry, I spent the whole day talking about this. I'm like, "Ugh, this is the last interview today." Once everything is confirmed, but I had my schedule and my windows of availability uh, not so long ago. So, like I keep explaining, you don't really book a tour 2 months before. It takes a long time. And I only had that like a couple of months ago. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm free in October. Yay. Okay, well. And so it's been difficult to find stuff available. Also, we've been away for a long time, and even if people still remember our name, and they kept listening to our stuff on streaming platforms, because I could see it, and I just like, this is great. We're not going completely like forgotten. But promoters, they need some a first reaction of a song, and the song was still not out because we cannot send anything. We want, so it is complicated. It's a process. So we still managed to book some stuff, and we'll do that, like I said, in October. Then November, December, I'm busy. January, I'm gonna try to, and then then Kreator comes back, and we have a lot to do as well. So it's complicated. So if we happen to play in Spain, actually, we're gonna play in Spain. Make sure you come and see us because it's it's not easy.
Yes, it's not easy. So, looking ahead, Frederick, so where do you see Sinsaenum in the future? Are you working and do you want that Sinsaenum in the future will be as big as, for example, the same Kreator, or you want to keep in a medium level?
Uh, I mean, it would be reductive to go like, oh, I'm very satisfied with like a very small level. Let's keep it that way. You always want to touch more people, and you want to, have like better conditions and sell more albums, and it's great and all of that. I have the chance not to think about it because I have the all that successful and exposure with Kreator, and this is a well-oiled machine. It was right, it was done before my time. I'm not going like, oh yeah, make Kreator famous. Kreator is big, and it's a luxury to be in there, and this is great. So I don't even think about Sinsaenum in that aspect, in terms of like running after fame or whatever. I don't know. I just wanna make good music. I hope that people can dig it and listen to it, and let's see how it goes in a few years. Like I first release that album on the 8th of August and see if people like it or not. If no one, like everybody's just like, nah, it's shit, then there's no point for us to carry on. But I think so far people seem to enjoy the first single, and the feedback I have is very positive. So let's see how it goes. But no, no pressure. Just 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 release good music and see how it goes.
Frederick, the people will like it. The music has a difference. The style that is, it sounds really good. I'm sure that the people will like it. Yes.
Well, thank you. I take your word for it. And if they don't, I come back to you and I'll say, see, you were lying. No,
Yes.
no, thank you very much.
You can call me. If it's not, you call me.
Okay, fine.
Tell me you broke my dreams.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So, Frederick, my last question is, are there any particular fears or anxieties that influence the intensity of your music
Fear?
or
Oh,
anxiety?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, no, it's hard to tell what inspired me other than I've been listening to that music before, and I guess that's the music I like, so I feel the energy, and that's basically what we were saying before. Like, I'm influenced by everything and anything. Like, everything that happens in my life is gonna be translated in music. Now with Sinsaenum, this is on the aggressive side. It has some melodies and whatnot, and it's hard to explain because I know what I'm gonna write for Sinsaenum is just like, I'm sort of like gathering all these emotions, and I've got like, yeah, okay, that this is all like Sinsaenum, I suppose. I don't know. So I'm just yeah, I'm everything, I keep to myself, like looking at the world right now, and I mean, it's just whatever. But I guess that's what's happening in the world is enough to be inspired for music like Sinsaenum. Let's put it that way.
Perfect, Frederick. Thank you very much for your time.
Muchas gracias.
Yeah. A ti,
Mm.
espero verte en Madrid.
See, I think we gonna play there. So hopefully I see you there, and then we can discuss if people liked it or not.
Muy bien.
Muy bien.
Perfecto. Oye, muchas gracias por todo. Ha sido un placer.
Muchas gracias. Bye
Que
bye.
tengas buen fin de semana. Chao.
Yeah, same. Bye bye.
Bye.